So is sitting really the new smoking? Let's talk about a cool new study. So there's this new study in JAMA Network Open where they followed about 500,000 people in Taiwan for an average of 13 years. People filled out a questionnaire once or twice a year, and they answered all sorts of things about their health and their behavior, including how active they were at work. And so there were three categories. Either they were mostly sitting, they were mostly standing, plus or minus walking around, or they were kind of half-half or in between. And when they compared the people who were mostly sitting to the people who were standing most of the time or walking, they found that the sitting people at work had an overall 16% higher chance of death and a 34% higher chance of dying of a cardiovascular event. Now, this is an observational study, so there could be some biases built in there, but they had a lot of information about these participants. They were able to adjust for their age, their sex, their education level, smoking, drinking, obesity, and even after all of those adjustments, this difference still existed. So this is one study, but in the context of other studies, many of which have shown very similar findings, it really does become believable that sitting is a problem. It's bad for your health to spend most of your day sitting. And there are guidelines around the world now that recommend avoiding this kind of sedentary behavior. A lot of potential reasons for this. When you're standing up, you're kind of activating your core muscles, your glutes, your leg muscles, you're shifting your weight side to side. There's some calories being burned just in that process. Often you're walking around a little bit. That's much better than sitting where the blood is pooling in your legs. There's some studies that suggest that causes some low-grade inflammation. Some studies suggest it increases chances of having a clot in the legs. So big difference there physiologically between the standing position and the sitting position. Now, most of us don't control our work environment. If you have a very sedentary sort of job, often there's not much you can do about that. What this study found that was encouraging was that if you did have a sitting job where most of the day you are sitting, if you exercise 15 to 30 minutes a day, you actually bring your risk of death down to that of the people who have an active job. So there is something you can do if you have a sitting job. You can, outside of your work, find time to exercise 15 to 30 minutes a day. The other thing you can do is to try to be up and about more at work. So in this study, people who were sort of half and half sitting and half up, had a similar risk to people who were up and about. So even if you get somewhere between around 3-4 hours up at work through a standing desk perhaps, or one of those contraptions where you've got a treadmill or an exercise bike attached to your desk, or just getting up and about during your breaks, that will help. So I think overall studies like this tell us that we need to maybe start thinking about denormalizing sitting. You know, sitting is kind of woven into the fabric of our workspaces, our home spaces. We maybe need to denormalize sitting at work the same way we denormalized smoking at work decades ago, and get employers on board with thinking about ways to alter job descriptions and work environments to enable people to get up and walk a little bit at work.